Welcome to your weekly reminder that only dead fish go with the flow. This week we have part 2 of Eva Fabian's podcast. I hope you really enjoyed the first half and will enjoy the second half just as much. We do have some exciting news that the podcast website and some of our merch is now available online. The link will be I guess the link will be in the bio of whatever platform you're streaming this off of, and also on Instagram. So that's really exciting, I think. Nerve-wracking, but very exciting. I hope you really enjoy the rest of the episode with Eva. Other thing I was going to ask, when you are doing these open water swims, when I swim, it's like assisted drowning. So the fact that you can ask someone on the bank where you are and also look around and okay, maybe not accurately judge depth of how far someone is away from you or something, or have Lana Del Rey going around in your head while you're
Yeah.
swimming. This is so impressive to me because my
Oh,
swimming
thank you.
is like assisted drowning. So
Well,
how do
I
you
can't even row, genuinely cannot move a boat. So, all athletes, we are all so hyper specialized at one thing. We could absolutely learn the others, but our skill level always at one thing.
swimming is a survival thing, whereas rowing is not. It's just a niche.
For me, rowing would be not getting from A to B, but swimming, I think, especially for swimmers, is something we just do so naturally, and we're so comfortable in the water, and especially for open water, there's so much going on. You're strategizing, you could tell pretty well who's 10 meters away or 3 meters to your side. You have to know where people are in a giant 60-person pack. So it does sort of require a lot of race awareness, and that's something that you really develop in open water, just with experience and by doing it a lot and by getting more comfortable just with being able to hold tempo and hold on to your technique, but also think. And I always feel like you could probably tell by my rate of speech, but I always feel like I'm going a million miles a minute. So for me, that felt very comfortable. I was like, yes, I can think and navigate the sea with
You're like,
the
you
time.
should see how fast my brain is working normally. At least it's got things it needs to concentrate on right now
There you
while
go.
I'm swimming.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very much it gets you into yes, you have a very specific goal. So it helps direct you. The water itself doesn't play the biggest part in the sport, which sounds weird, but
Mm.
the things that play the biggest parts are more your particular strategy, whether that is how you swim the race, effort wise, or if it's feeling in terms of technique, when you're your tempo is usually something that's more prevalent, or your breakouts. There's so many tiny technical parts of the sport that the main focus is very much tactical rather or strategic, depending on how long the race is. But
This is a really odd. Well, this to me at the time it felt like a really odd thing. But I remember being out on a training session once and looking down from the boat at the water. And I was like, how weird is it that there's stuff underneath the water and it's not the water itself isn't just
a
a,
thing.
a solid?
Yeah.
Obviously it's not a solid, but because I did all of my training on top of the water,
Yeah.
the idea that there was something underneath the water, and I might have been hungover at the time, and I was just looking
100%.
at the water and was
And
like,
being
oh my God.
you're it's down there. It's in there. It's something that it's almost so second nature that it's just the water is the water and we swim through it. And it's
Yeah.
we always tend to oversimplify it because it's so natural, but it is really a beautiful thing. I think now I recognize it a bit more because I am retired, as we say, from professional sports. So now when I swim, it's for fitness and for fun. So I really treasure my connection with the water. It really helps me think, and it helps me um, I don't know, kind of maintain the passage of time in my mind in a weird way. So if I feel like I swim every day or a few times a week, I really feel time passing as it should. Whereas if I don't swim, I feel like I'm a little bit unmoored, which is an aquatic metaphor. I guess it's just fitting. I mean, for me, the open water itself was kind of scary. When I was younger, I had to swim with my eyes closed underwater, which, as you can imagine, is unsustainable in a sport. And actually, I remember my dear friend Crippen, who very sadly passed away during a World Cup in the Emirates. But he was the most amazing role model and swimmer and friend. And he taught me almost everything I know about how to be a teammate and a leader. And also like open water specific, like so much knowledge. And he was just like this incredible source of like joy and positivity and love for the sport. So like everybody who had the luck of like having time with him as a teammate or a friend, just like it's just was the joy of my life to be friends with him. And he actually was the one who like encouraged me to open my eyes. I had made it somehow to Junior Pan Pacifics with this great fear of the open water. And I remember he was like the national team representative on this trip, and he would like dive down and pick up sea slugs and just like throw them at people. And to me, it was just like the no fear of like we're gonna interact with this environment and it's playful. And he was just like, "Come on, it's fun." And he was like, "Eva, you've got the chops. Like you just got to get into it. Like dive in, make it happen." And I just remember like the year later, like I was like eventually would be on national teams with him, but like he was like the person who really brought me into the sport as well. And I think that like it's interesting where you like you grow up learning to swim and you have like no sort of like issue with the water, and then when you go into open water you suddenly have to encounter this of like what you're saying where you're like, wow, the water is like a thing and I'm in it, and it can be scary. But like I think like the playfulness and the encouragement of just like being able to be like joyous in the environment and curious was something that he really brought. So yeah.
That's really lovely. My parents are like big into cold water dips in a lake near where we live. And we bumped into somebody else actually who was they were on their way to do their dip. And this lady was like, if I don't do my cold water dips, then I feel less in tune with like the seasons changing because I'm just
Wow.
like in my house and I'm like, we did a podcast with Rose Unwin weeks ago now who was talking about contrast therapy. And she was saying about how we live such a thermo-neutral life with like
Hmm.
central heating and stuff. And it really made when that lady said, this other lady that we met was saying about the open water dips really keep me in tune with like the seasons changing and the timing of the year. And you were talking about like the timing of things as well.
Whoa.
That was my connection. That was like the loops going in my head.
100%, because I also like for me, like training in the sea or like swimming in the ocean throughout the year, or like wherever you happen to be, if like if that's a time bounded thing, or if you're lucky like me and you get to swim throughout the year in the sea, like you really do feel the passage of time. And I think that sort of comes back to like the kind of gift of being in touch with nature that is like doing a sport that is by nature outdoors, whether that's
Mm,
running or whether that's like even sports like rugby where they're playing like in the winter, they have to know how to play in the summer. And like you really do, I think in a lot of sports get to like not only exist in your body very deeply, but also like in nature and in the world, which I think is something that I find really special. Like it's not a given that you get to have this like very lucky and close relationship with your body and with like performance in that way, and then also with nature and getting to be outside and in many different parts of the world. So I think like that's something I've always treasured about sports. Like, and I like treasured from even a young age, just like getting to even be outside for part of my sort of like what was at the time just like my sport and then became my job. And I think like that's like one of the most beautiful parts about it is you feel like you very much exist like in the
mm.
world, like quite rooted. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that ties up our favourite part really nicely. But we do have the best fuck up, so I'm hoping you've had a little think.
Ooh, I have a good one. Okay, so this one is tough, but then I promise that it ends like with one of the better moments, which like didn't make the best moment cut, but is one of the better ones.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so I was at this is 2010. This is a throwback. Okay, I was 16. And I was at my second ever world championships, and I had trained really hard, and I was like finally feeling like I had experience in the sport. I really knew how to swim my race. Like I really did a lot of work. This was with my dad when I was growing up. So I like came probably the most prepared that I had felt, like for sure up to that point in my life. And I was like so ready because I was swimming the 10K and the 5K at Worlds. And I was most excited. Like the 10K is the Olympic event. So for all of us, it's like definitely the most prized. And that was like our first event. I was like so amped. I was very nervous. And I remember second guessing myself about what to do leading up to the race, which was odd for me. I was a little bit like nervous in the sense, in a way that I hadn't really been yet. But I was like super prepared. I come for this 10K and I start swimming the race of my life. Okay. Like, unbelievable. I was even prepared for the cold water. This was in Canada. And like, I was out front almost the whole way. I was feeling so good with like 2.5K to go. I remember I got elbowed really hard. This was accidental, like, because it's like very, like there's a lot of people and you're moving around tough. Like most of the time when you're getting like hit or pushed around, it's not on purpose. And someone did accidentally around the turn elbow me quite hard in the nose. And I remember being like, so happy the water was cold because I could barely feel it. And I was like, okay, minor setback, but like it's being iced, I guess. And I came into that last 2.5K, like just feeling great, swimming so fast. And it was like super wavy, great conditions for me. And we're coming into like the last 300 meters. And it's me and the great Brazilian swimmer, Poliana Okimoto. And I knew that she was one of the best at the finish. I knew that it was going to be her and me. And like, this was it. Cause we had like a body length and a half maybe on the rest of the pack, like distance between us. And they had told us that there was like this directional buoy that they didn't want us to think was a turn buoy. So it's not something you're turning around. It's just like keeping you in line. But they decided to make it mandatory because there were rocks in the area. But in order to not confuse us, they put like a black plastic trash bag over it, which blended in really well with like the gray sky and the dark lake. To this day, I maintain we did not go on the wrong side of this buoy, okay? Because she was on my other side and I know she didn't. So there is impossible unless we like both blinked into a different universe for a second that we didn't. Now, instead of what the usual is letting you go back around, like this is the rules, they gave us immediate red cards, which is insanity. So I remember hearing a bunch of whistles and looking over. I was like, Poliana and I did not touch each other because we both knew we are swimming the race of our life. We are swimming like the last 300 meters. This is a dream. No one else is around us. And both of us were thinking to each other, I've got her. Like, I can do this. And so, of course, we weren't like interfering with each other at this or finish. I saw both of our numbers written on the whiteboard on like the referee's boat and a red card. And I remember being like, what? We literally did nothing. Like, why? And they made us like exit the race. I remember Poliana just being devastated because for her at the time, she was a professional. And so this is like your career. And I remember they made us like walk of shame out around. So I got disqualified for the first time in my life at the 9.7K of a 10K I was about to medal in. And I was like, shock, like absolute shock. I'd never been disqualified ever before because like swimming, I was like, I know how to swim. I do the things. I know the rules, you know, like I got this. Two-hand touch on the turns.
Has you got, what were they claiming
to this
you'd
day,
done?
They were claiming we had like swum on the wrong side of it, which to this day, I have no clue why and what this was. And in subsequent world championships, when people have like missed buoys, they've had them go back around. And these are turn buoys too. So like this is like even less of a deal. So this was like huge shock. I remember I came in and someone from the staff said like, if we lose the overall, it'll be because of this, like what you just did. And I was like, thank you. I was like, yes, of all the things I wanted to hear after I literally just embarrassingly disqualified at Worlds at the finish of a race I was about to medal in. That's what I wanted to hear. I remember I lost a shoe, like, and I missed the buses. I walked back to the hotel with like one sandal and one sneaker, and I had the 5K like 2 days later. And I was so devastated. And this is where teammates come in. Like, I remember my teammates being like very respectful of the fact that I was like clearly like it was like rough. I was like trying to put on a good face, but it was rough. And I remember at a certain point I like made a joke about it and they were just like, can we laugh about it now? Because if we do, it'll be better and you have a 5K in 2 days. So we got to get it back. And so from then on, we were just kind of like, you got to throw it out. Like it feels like a nightmare, but we got to move on. And I managed to kind of just like reframe it to myself as I know I already like won a race here, so I can do it again. And when I rolled up to that 5K 2 days later, I was like, I'm winning this one. Like, that's it. Like, I know I can do it. And I like already basically did it. And I dove in for that 5K and I swam out front the whole way and I won. And that was it. And like, that was the world championship. I'm a sprinter now, technically. But the fact that my like gold medal came from something that was like the worst mistake of my entire career and that I sort of like managed to take what was an incredibly embarrassing error, like on the biggest stage possible, in the worst possible way. And with the help of teammates, honestly, find a way to like reframe it and find something there that I could take forward is like ends up being good. And I think in a lot of ways, like that was a defining moment in my career and life. and like knowing that you can pick yourself back up with like a little bit of laughter from people who like understand that it was rough is like one of the greatest like gifts that I've had from swimming.
I love that. I know exactly that kind of moment where everyone's waiting for you to sort of not crack from the misery, but like they're just waiting for like the okay to like make a little like joke about it.
Yep.
Or I feel like when I retired, I remember making some of the jokes that I'd made with teammates in
Yeah.
like a real world setting and everyone being like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" But in the like teammate setting, like it
Yeah.
was just like, "Oh, it's just another day," or it's like
Mm-hmm.
the horrors persist, but so
Yep.
do I, and like all of that sort of stuff. I know exactly what you mean. It's like, can we laugh about this yet? Can
Yeah.
we make a
They're like,
joke? Are you
it
ready?
is pretty funny. Yeah. Like, luck if you have like just a little bit of distance from it, like it is pretty funny. Of course, at the time it was very not funny, but within like, the span of 2 days, it had to become something that could become funny and also fuel, which I think is also kind of lucky in a way. Like you can very critically mess up in sport and like it truly is okay. Like it does
Mm,
impact your career and like it does impact your earnings and like that is real. But the impact of it is very much sort of like what you choose to take on, whether it's learning or like a sense of responsibility, because that is like absolutely part of learning. But like blame or guilt or these things that like we kind of like tend to take on sometimes after a bad performance is like really just useless to you and to everyone else. And
mm,
we're just lucky we're in operating in an environment where we get to like actually like make mistakes, make big errors, and like get back up and do it again the next day. So I
yeah.
think there's like a lot of luck in that.
I've already used this quote, but there's an interview with Billie Jean King, and she was saying about why it's so important for young girls to get into sport, and it's because it teaches us to make mistakes
Hmm.
and then get over it, which is
Yeah.
exactly what you're describing. I just think it's brilliant.
It's really cool. It is the same muscle. I think that like if you like, let's say you do sport when you're young, but you don't necessarily continue, like it's the same muscle that you will use throughout everything in life. Like, cause I felt that sport helped me so much in academics and so much in work and so much in every aspect of my life, like relationships even. And I think like there is something really special in like everybody has sort of like a formative thing, something they love that really like helps define who they are and a lot of like how they view the world and live their life. And a lot of ways I think sport or like the real like ideals of sports to me have really helped me um like get my head on straight in a lot of things. Like knowing that like don't take yourself too seriously, don't take the thing too seriously. Like take what you do like with love and with something that you like you care about and cherish, but like um you if you take yourself too seriously in that, there's going to be a lot of like overthinking and a lot of things that like don't end up working.
Do you have a piece of advice or a mantra that you sort of go back to?
Okay, this is tough because there's a lot of like things that you could pull from sport. And I'm gonna pull something that sounds quite basic, but it's advice that was given to me by my very dear friend Fran Crippen. And that was at that same World Championships I spoke about, which was trust yourself, like 100%. And when especially in sports, like and especially for women in sports, the like temptation to sort of like listen to other voices or not prioritize what you know to be right is really high. And there's a lot of pressure on you to listen to everyone. Like someone in the third row who watched you swim your 1500 and thinks that you kicked too much in the first 500 and they'll tell you. And I think especially this like counts for like a lot in training more like you need to be able to listen to yourself and to your body. If you think that you are approaching a situation where you're overtraining, if you are approaching a situation where you know that even like this training program is just not right, like it is not working, you know what works for you, you need to like have the conversation with your coach. Like talk about whatever it is. Like for me, I knew that specific things really helped me with speed, and I knew that doing too much speed actually, like, for me, would kind of kill that engine. So I had to really be careful when I worked on power and speed, like within the season. And if I did, like, do very small amounts of it, and like the mistakes I made were when I didn't express that most and like insist on that. And when I was performing my best, it was when I was really, really insisting, even at times where it was like, I felt like people were looking at me like I wasn't working hard enough, which is a crazy thing, right? Like for athletes, but we feel that if we're not like doing 100,000 kilometers a week or something, um, because I was listening to my body and saying like either this is like 100% going to burn out my engine, like doing this for 6 weeks straight or whatever. Or at this point, like I feel like I'm getting sick and I need to rest. And that will save me a week of coming back. And I think there's like so much pressure to just like work hard and which is, by the way, it should be sports, it's hard work, but to work hard to the point of like ignoring other things that are going on. I think the thing we forget, sorry, this is a roundabout way of saying it, is that training is about improving and it's not about just like beating yourself up. And if you are not going to be improving from it, it's not right. My again, like the great Elizabeth Beisel once said something like the law of thirds. Like if you are swimming a third of the practices pretty poorly, a third okay, and a third great, it's probably good. Because if you're swimming too much badly, something's wrong. And if you're swimming too much, like too well, probably you're not working hard enough. And so I think like, remembering that there is like a balance there. So, not overreacting, but like trusting yourself when you know something is not right, absolutely is the most important thing you can do in sport.
Mm. Yeah. I've got personal experience on that one. I would completely agree.
Thank you. I know, but it's a lot. It's like a tough learned lesson. Like it's not
It
an easy
is.
one. You have to like continually remind yourself too.
It is a difficult one, especially when things are going well, but you feel like something's wrong. Like it's very
Hmm.
difficult to look past the end of the season, and most of the time you've got loads more seasons in you, so you've got to think about those other seasons rather than like training on Thursday afternoon and
Yeah.
like what, maybe that one is okay to miss for this injury or this illness or this thing that you feel is wrong,
Yeah.
rather than just being like blindly plowing through.
Exactly. It's like the endless present. Like you do sort of live in the endless present in a way, and
Yeah.
which is great, but at the same time it can make you lose perspective on your overall performance and even your health at times. Our bodies are important for our lives and not just for the sport. It is hard to sort of like find that perspective because as athletes, we are very much like we care a lot about sport. Shocker, I know, but like we care a lot. And so having to like make what feels like compromises on your training, even though in the end it's really actually just like a beneficial decision, it's a hard thing to do.
The endless present, I really like that as a phrase. I think I'd seen a
Ooh.
different phrase.
But I also do think the endless present is what the 25K feels like. So we've circled back.
Never ending. To be fair, if I'd swum 25K, I'd never stop talking about it. I'd
The
tell
thing is
anyone that would listen.
it like never comes up, and then when it does, it like makes me think about it again, and I'm like, "Oh my god, there's so much happened."
We're
But
on to our final stretch, if you like. I've got two more questions for
okay.
you. Penultimate one is, if you would change something in your sport or sport in general, what would it be?
I think especially in swimming and in sport in general, I think it would be sort of that like you're only as good as your last like race mentality because of the fact that like sport is really for life. And I think the idea of like, wow, that sounded like such a cliche, but I'm going to explain the idea that like it's a time bounded thing and that you only have this amount of time to enjoy from sport is true in the sense that like you're only competing for a certain amount of time. And that's just like a reality and it's a fact and life is full of change and that's the thing. But like your sports life and experiences with you forever. And also hopefully sport, whether it's your same sport, like or not, like working out is gonna be with you for forever. And I love working out. That's why I was an athlete. I think that the idea that you have this like very rigid, time bounded, like sort of like very high pressure, you have to get it all in and you like you'll never have this again. I think that's the one thing I would change about sport because it is important that we cherish it and like these moments are amazing and it's like full of some of the craziest high emotions and low emotions but also like it it's so is life. It's not the
Mm.
only thing that is like very exciting and very fulfilling. It just is in its own unique way and that it is special because it's so like individual and personal and physical but hopefully you find some version of athletics or sport that you love and that you can continue in and for me, I'm lucky that I'll never burn out of swimming, so I just love getting in the water still, and I love lifting and listening to music. The gift to me of sport is really that it, like, gives you a lot of joy in what your body can do. So I think, like, I would change the idea that, like, sport is like a really high pressure, get it in when you're young. It's only like you only have this once. Like I would sort of take that attitude and be like, yes, we are lucky to have this opportunity. It isn't forever. So like of course, like we have to like acknowledge that, but sport is with you forever and you will have that joy.
Before we turned the mics on, you said it in such a lovely way. You were like, how lucky we are to sort of like have this sport moment of our careers, if you like, to whatever age, and then completely basically reinvent ourselves or reinvent what our lives look like afterwards. Maybe we left that sporting environment in a way that we didn't want to, or maybe we left it in exactly the way we wanted to, but the outcome of what happens next is the same either way, is
Yeah.
you have this complete new life to basically frame however you want. And you were sort of saying how lucky we are to, and I completely agree.
A classic that I like spouted poetry on a like not on a hot mic,
Yeah.
but that's kind of it. I think is like we're so lucky that we get this like crazy intense period of our lives, and that it really does define who we are, and it is very much makes up like the core of your identity, and often like a lot of what you're doing, if not all, is centered around that. But it's also really lucky to get to like I almost feel like I was saying, like I almost feel like a cat. You know what I mean? Like you
Mm,
actually get like
yeah.
another sort of like type of life that you get to live. And I feel that it's very rare to get to make those types of big changes. And I think it's quite lucky in a lot of respects because not only were we lucky to get to do sport, but you're also lucky to get to really find out who you are in another way. Like it's not easy. And of course it's hard. And like I was saying, like it's a crazy thing to do to just like completely change your life in every single way. But at the same time, it's also very lucky because there aren't that many times in life where you get to really like shift everything. Whether you're shifting what you're spending most of your time doing, you're shifting your community, you're shifting your profession. And like while that is like scary and extremely chaotic, it's also like really lucky because you get to know yourself all over again and redefine yourself. I actually had like Jim Henry, my coach in university. He after this like really tough race where I missed the Olympics in 2015, I think it was like even just missing the worlds to qualify the Olympics. Actually, I missed even like that first sort of stage, and I remember he said to me like, "You'll reinvent yourself." And for the first like 2 seconds, I was like, "What do I need to reinvent?" I was just like, "What?" And then I was like,
Like so offended.
yeah, so offended for no reason at all. And then I like took a like it just hit me and I was like, he was like, "You always do." And it was so beautiful. It's like this opportunity to reinvent yourself given what you've already learned and like become whatever you'd like. And I think like that was of course that's through sport that I have this framework, right? But I think like the idea that you get to reinvent yourself given everything you already know is just really beautiful to me too.
Classic when the mic's off and they like put the mic on and like,
I'm like, ah.
that thing that you said earlier, I want you to just
You're like,
circle back round and you're like, oh my God, what have I even said?
unless, as you can probably tell, I love to talk. I'll find my way back to it.
So my final question, and I know that you're a musician, or and do you play the violin? Is that
Oh
right?
my yes, I do. Yeah.
I
That
don't
is
be too
me.
impressed. I've been talking to you on Instagram, and I actually read your Instagram bio.
Wait,
So
that's true. I forgot.
don't lose your mind over
It's
it.
it's a social media era.
But do you have a soundtrack for the week?
My goodness. Oh, okay. All right. I have two competing tracks. Okay.
Okay, good.
First of all, Lady Gaga has been the soundtrack to my entire existence on a cellular and perhaps even like atomic level. Since actually like since her very first song, Just Dance, all I did was sing Gaga throughout my whole career. I did go to see her on the tour, and so Mayhem has been like I would say like melding with my neurons over the last couple months, and I like really I had an experience where I was like biking to work and Zombie Boy came on and I just like screamed in excitement. I've heard the song like 1,000 times, but so that's like been my sort of ever present soundtrack in the bottom of my mind. But on top of that,
Fantastic.
Rosalia's new album is incredible. And as a violinist, like I really like I take a lot of joy when violin like makes an appearance like in Alejandro, like for Lady Gaga. She samples this very famous sort of like student piece called Chardas. It's transposed. But any violinist will hear that and be like, I know that. And that is a deep cut into classical music. So like Lady Gaga comes from a lot of classical music as well. So it's just like entertaining to see that. Like we're given little bites of this like grand musical tradition. I just think like Alexa's just like an insane piece of art. So those two have kind of been my like cornerstones. Um I also listened to this band called Telenova, and they came out with, some new songs, and they have an album coming out in, like, half a year that I'm already excited for. So, like, it's, like, a few different, radio channels that are going on right now simultaneously, but yeah.
What would you say is your favorite Gaga song?
Okay, so Becca and I had, like, an honest ranking of these. We had, like, a top 3 of, like, who you are and then versus, like, what your favorite
I
is.
feel like it's amazing what you find to do on a training camp when you're supposed to be
100%.
resting. It's like, what should we do now? Should we rank all of Lady Gaga's songs?
100%. And it wasn't even just rank, it was like, which songs are you? Like, which ones define your personality? And then which ones, like, do you just love? For me, okay, this is a hugely competing thing. And of course, I have 2 answers because I can't not have 2 answers. The first is Paparazzi because the first time I heard it, it was
Of
stunning.
course.
And I was
Mm.
like, this is the most beautiful music ever written. And I play classical, so like everyone is like, oh, that must be where your world is at, especially like music theory and all these things. Lady Gaga is like just absolutely destroying the world of classical music with her level of like complexity and music theory and like referencing. Paparazzi is an insane piece of art. It's just amazing. I like only listen to it when I want to like listen to it. I like don't listen to it just for fun, which is crazy, but is a thing. And then Art Pop is actually my like favorite song of hers because it is like if you think like thematically, like the theme of the song is represented musically in a way that's like stupendously interesting, also like harmonically and also like in the instrumentation. And so it's like draws on this tradition of what they used to call like text painting, where you would like take a poem and then like really like turn it into music in a way that was like either physical. So if like something was about falling, so the pitch would fall. So she's like taking this like really grand tradition of like sort of physically recreating a topic in sound, like duality is what she's representing with these sort of like 2 very chromatically close notes that move together. So it's like stupendously complex, but it sounds like so easy. And I think that's like what I love about her is like crazy complex but fun dance music.
That's I'm like I'm like, "Ooh, I wanna know more about that
I've
now."
I'm this is like my level. I had a lot of time to think in my high school and college and professional swimming years, mostly about music while I was swimming. So if you ever need like nerdy rants, that would be here.
Rosaline, the other one. Am I
Rosalia.
saying that?
She has the
Rosalia.
yeah, a credible album. Definitely everybody should listen to it, although I'm sure it has like
I think I've seen
made
her
their
on my
way.
social media. She's got, like, a halo dyed into her hair at the
It's
moment. Is that the right
stupendously
one?
cool. Yes, she's in every
Yeah.
way thematically, fashionably on brand for her music right now, and it's like, an all effort alignment on the music, and it's amazing.
Oh, fantastic. I'm gonna listen. I've listened to a bit of it, but I've not, like you were saying, like, you listen to things for fun, and then you listen and you, like, actually engage with what's sort of being
Mhm.
said. So I'll have to do an actual engaged listen.
Very recommended. Like, make a nice sort of like make a good tea or a good coffee,
Oh,
sit
yeah.
down, candles, put on Lux, just, like, live
Mm.
it.
Oh, gonna do that tomorrow. Well, thank you very much. You have completed the podcast and it has been an absolute blast.
Thank
If
you.
anybody wants to find you or message you on social media, do you want to be found at all?
Absolutely. I'm at Fabulously Eva. I think my social's public. Go for it. I don't really post a ton, but I exist. I think all of us do on
I'm
social
there.
media. Yeah. We do exist.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very, very much. I've absolutely loved chatting with you and listening about all of it. I think you phrased so much of it in a way that I was like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt when I was like outside and training and doing all of these things. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And like it's just always great joy to get to talk to other athletes who've shared the same experience and like gone through this like very unique type of lifestyle. So I really appreciate it.
We're strange creatures, aren't we? Like
That's well said.
thank you for listening to this podcast with Eva. I really, really enjoyed chatting with her, as I do all the podcast guests, really. And it's just very lovely to have everyone's support while I do all of this. As usual, like, follow, share, subscribe, and maybe check out the new website. Please don't judge because I have absolutely no training in IT, and I'm doing my best. But shout out to Feather and Square, Miles Beeson, who has sat down with me and helped make it. So thank you very much, and speak to you next week. Bye-bye.